Bob, take it away.
I think we have the entire population of Bangladesh here. Here's another one of them.
Who's surviving, actually. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for letting me speak here. I want to thank the delegates for the great perspectives that they provided here. Sorry about my bad hair day.
That's why I was given to introduce
I was inspired by Bob yesterday. The comment I wanted to make was the way I see a lot of the climate change debates and discussions from academia and at the COP15. The discussion is really about the future. We want to cut emissions by 2050. What I wanted to say was climate change is affecting people today, and we need an action today. We provided perspectives from Mauritius, Bangladesh, a whole range of other countries, and what I feel that needs to be added on top of the resolution, and I just quickly drafted this about a couple of minutes ago, so I'm not sure how good this is. Furthermore, we call upon national governments to increase aid for a climate change and adaptation fund to assist immediately farmers of vulnerable communities. We need money for adaptation strategies, renewable technologies, and knowledge sharing on top of what local communities already have, so that people who are actually, for instance, farmers who are out of work, crops that are failing due to salinity and drought and flooding, that's basically what I think needs to be added on top of carbon emissions. Thank you.
President Toledo, do you want to?
We have a young man from Venezuela who is studying international affairs, and his name is Andres Rendon, and he has a question. Please.
I believe there's a dramatic question which is not being addressed at the moment. Why did Copenhagen fail? I gather it was because of lobbying by countries such as China, which relies chiefly upon industrialization, and Venezuela, my homeland, which believe that poverty and the tragedies caused by it represents itself as a grander, more imperative problem. If we don't address these questions properly, I fear this might become Copenhagen all over again.
Nick, do you want to introduce?
I have next up Rodrigo from Brazil.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I came here thinking about what could we bring as legislative suggestions. And I see that we're demanding the governments to change, but we're just asking what we want, but not how we want. And I would like to ask what solutions, immediate solutions, in terms of legal instruments can we suggest to our governments. And I just picked up two ideas like virtual tax expenditure to help green companies and regulating antitrust law, because we need to guarantee a fair competition to green companies so they won't be crashed down with their lack of efficiency in global markets. Thank you.
Mr. Nunn, can we go to you, sir?
Yes, I have a young group of leaders here who have wonderful ideas and questions to share. And I don't want to stand in their way, so I will let them go ahead straight away, and I may say something.
Thank you, Mr. Nunn.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Marina. I'm from Argentina. I was thinking, I read some days ago, there was an idea of an international parliament, because I feel climate has no boundaries. This is not Argentina, Bolivia, England. It's just something that is worldwide. So why shouldn't we represented by an international parliament which has a position and has an officialism, and for us to be represented, be voting for our representatives. So it's an idea for us to send to Mexico. This is not governments deciding, and because all of the governments have different resources, but if we had an international parliament, then maybe we could have an international decision on climate.
Great idea.
Following on from our hairdressing critique, probably with due importance, given that COP16 is going to be in Mexico next, here's Ethna from Mexico.
Thank you. I'm just going to say something real quick about the resolution, because we're calling upon governments, but I really think we should call upon ourselves and global companies and industries. Because I think like this, we and have most part of it, not just governments. I mean, they can really push us to do it and maybe like get fines or something for the companies, but we are who we really want to, who we really need to do it, not just the governments.
President Toledo.
We have a young man, Charlie Young, from the UK, who is studying anthropology at Atlantic College, and he has a reflection to share with us.
Hi. I think one of the most important things about this conference is that as we're young people, we don't really have any limits, and we don't really have things that we have to say or are bound to. And so if we're going to bring a resolution to the world's leaders, then we should have some kind of binding nature to it, because one of the major disappointments of Copenhagen was that although the majority of people passed a resolution and an accord, it wasn't binding at all. And so if we have a suggestion, which is what the resolution on the table at the moment is, then it can be very easy for governments to say, yes, okay, we agree with you, wonderful, clap, let's move on. Unless we have a kind of limit, say 25 to 40% cuts by 2020, which is a conservative suggestion from the IPCC, then there's nothing that's actually going to be aimed towards. So I suggest that we put 40% on the table as something for 2020, and that's something that they can actually discuss. And if they say no, then we can pick up from there.
Next up, I have Inga from Norway.
Thank you. And I want to start by saying that I both support the suggestion on the adaptation fund, and I would say 40% by 2020, so that we have a concrete figure. But also I want to add that this resolution is it's really easy to agree on and just, you know, put your hand on agreeing. But I think it's time for us to start pointing. Because today we have all these campaigns all over the world trying to say that we want action, but it's time for us, when we go back to our various countries, to start pointing at what industries and what measures has to be taken, because it's not a global deal that is going to save this planet. It's the concrete action taking on each gas power plant, each coal power plant, each fossil car that has to be done something about, and that, I believe, is what we as young people can do. And in my country, it means avoiding oil extractions in the Arctic, and it means investing in railroads instead of expanding roads. I don't know what it is in your various countries, but today's resolution has to be not our only demand. It has to be a platform for various demands in various countries on what actions that has to be done. And then, having put those demands forward, it might be a power plant, it might be something else, and then I believe we have to work day and night to get those demands to become reality. And I can assure you that working against the Norwegian oil industry takes blood, toil, tears and sweat and civil disobedience. But as I'm doing that in my country, I'm expecting all of you to go back to your countries to find the ways that you can reduce your carbon emissions, because we can always sit down and wait for the grown-ups to agree on a deal, but what will save this planet is taking each car off the road and replacing it with something that doesn't pollute. Thank you.
Mr. Nunn.
Good. I have Adrian from Hong Kong. We are all going to be very brief. We have lots of people lined up, so that as many people as possible can give us their views.
Thank you, thank you. My point is only one. I'm going to share with you one single word, and that word is compromise. Because we see in the global world today that no one is willing to compromise, and no one is willing to take the first step in mitigation and also in countering climate change. And what we know is that if no one will take the first step, there will be no world for us to live in 50 years, in 100 years, and we will all die in this world. So I am sure that as a Chinese delegate here, that my fellow American delegates, Canadian delegates, French delegates, they're all willing to sacrifice a little bit of their development, a little bit of their well-being, just to make sure that we still live in this world, and there is a world for us to live in. We know that no one did something during the Holocaust, and 6 billion Jews died. Now what will happen is, if no one do something at this moment, at this time, what will happen is that 6 billion people will die. Thank you.
So we've probably got only about 5 minutes left, so the quicker you keep your comments, the more people can speak. Bob, over to you.
Sue from Malaya.
I think the question is not about why did Copenhagen fail, but how to make Mexico a success. I think the draft resolution, forgive me, is pretty vague because like there's a lot of issues concerning here. Like, for example, differentiated responsibility, is it still relevant? And about that carbon appropriate CO2 emission, what is appropriate? Like, people are already arguing about the 350 ppm. So, and the thing is, I feel that nations are all like waiting for one another. Nobody wants to take the first step. And before Copenhagen, many countries like the EU, they actually like pledge this and that. It's evident that some countries, they do want to make a difference, but at the end of the day, none of this has been adopted, and I'm afraid that this will be repeated, this pattern will be repeated again in Mexico. So I think somebody needs to stand up and actually break this vicious cycle. And to add to that, I feel that about environmental issues, it's not about sacrificing development. Not at all. It's about taking a different path, an alternative path of development. That is a misinterpretation that many people have.
Before Alejandro, before we go to you, sir, could I just say to the thousands of people who are currently voting online, we have about 4 minutes to go on the online vote. So everybody around the world who's voting online, you have about 4 minutes to close on your vote.
That's not you, that's the people voting on the
That's
internet.
not you guys.
Okay, one more quick question from the remaining 3 microphones, or comment.
We have a young lady, Kerry, who is studying environmental lawyer, and maybe we need it. Please, you have your comment.
I'll keep this brief. I wanted to say thank you very much to all the delegate speakers. I thought your presentations were wonderful.
Good.
I wonder whether the resolution is a little bit too short term. David talked about ways in which we might distinguish ourselves from previous generations, and perhaps a way we could do that would be to look for something more long term, not just 2020, but 2050 and beyond.
Thank you.
Okay, to you over there, think for the last 2 speakers, one from you and one from the delegates with Mr. Anand. Okay, I'm sorry because we're out of time.
Junya Tanaka from Japan.
Hi everyone. I want to say one thing about, so when you hear about the COP, I think most of you are thinking about COP16 Mexico, but I want to remind you one more COP. This is about COP10 Nagoya on biological diversity. And then I think most of you not know the COP10 biodiversity haven't been drawn attention enough. So I'm not an expert on biodiversity, but I really want to make the COP10 Nagoya like a Kyoto Protocol, and I really need help from the people all over the world and people in this floor, and then come to Japan and in this October and talk about biodiversity, not only in relation to climate change, but COP10 biodiversity is about our life, how we live with natural environment. So let's also talk about biodiversity. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, and last delegate speaker with you, Mr. Anand.
Agastya from India.
Yes. So hi, my name is Agastya Muthana, and I'm an economics student at Cambridge. And I basically want to make this, I believe the proposal should be a little more specific. I mean, we have a chance. Let's try and get one policy looked at. Let's look at a specific policy. Let's look at a specific field. And I think the 2 things we should look at are finance, international finance. Now, we need a lot of money to go towards mitigation in the places where it can be cheapest. And what I suggest is that we try and get private finance. Now, pension funds have $12 billion in their portfolios. If we get public money as an insurance, and right now there's $10 billion committed as direct government-to-government transfers, if instead that is an insurance, and if that is an insurance to private money being invested directly in energy projects, say in India, it could lead to a lot more money. It could lead to much better economic efficiency and allocation, and it's something we just can do very easily. Now, as one of the delegates behind me brought up, we have all the technology. A lot of the technology has been invented. It's just a question of implementing it. And for that to happen, we need the money. And the best way to do that is opening it up to the private sector, getting insurance. There is a lot of money out there. It just needs to be directed with government incentives instead of being taken over directly by the government. And I think this is an issue we have to look at.
Okay,
Great, thank you.